Have you ever looked at your body and thought, why are you doing this to me? The weight that won't move, the exhaustion that sleep just doesn't fix, the inflammation, the cravings, the brain fog, the hormones that feel unpredictable. And the hardest part, you've tried to do all the right things. You changed your food, you bought the supplements, you pushed yourself harder, but deep down, you still feel your body is fighting against you. Here's what many women are never taught: your body is not just responding to what happened this week, it's responding to what it's been carrying for years. The stress you adapted to, the emotions you buried, the environments you lived in, the beliefs you repeated, the survival patterns that became your normal. Sometimes the question isn't, why won't my body cooperate? Sometimes the question is, what load has my body been carrying that I never learned how to release? Today's conversation isn't about learning how to work with your body instead of constantly fighting against it, because healing isn't always one big breakthrough moment. Sometimes it's the small, intentional choices repeated every day that tell your body, I'm listening now. And later in this episode, Darci is going to reveal why, after 32 years of helping people heal, she believes one of the biggest missing pieces isn't another protocol. It's reconnecting with the person inside the body. Trust me, you'll want to stay for that. But before we dive into this episode, y'all already know what time it is. Vibe with me, y'all.
Welcome to the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast.
Y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast. It's your healthy habits and lifestyle coach, Jovonnie, helping women uncover the hidden patterns contributing to pain, fatigue, inflammation, and survival mode so they can regain trust in their body, reclaim their energy, and feel in control again. Because one thing I've learned is this: your symptoms may show up in your body, but the story often started much deeper. Welcome to the Good Vibe Studio, Darci.
Thank you. Thank you, Jovonnie. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, ma'am. Darci has spent more than 32 years of studying what happens when we stop treating the body like a problem to solve and start understanding it is a system asking for support. Darci, you said something during our first conversation that stayed with me. This has been my whole life's journey to address the inner me. Take us back. What was happening in your life that made you start exploring healing at an age where most kids aren't thinking about their inner world?
Well, I actually got poisoned as a child twice, and I had to ask a lot of important questions. Why, the first time was in my school. My school was toxic, and we didn't know it at the time. And what happened was I started to get sick. I started to get really sick. I had bronchitis, bronchiectasis, pneumonia, walking pneumonia. I was sick a lot consistently. And my doctor, and so that was poisoning number one, which we didn't know. It reduced my immune system. And then my doctor at the time gave me medicine. He said, "Oh, this is going to help you. It's going to help your lungs." And my hands and feet went numb. And I went back to him. I said, "What is going?" Yeah, I'm shocked too. I said, "What's going on?" He said, "Oh, you just have your theophylline levels are too high. We'll just reduce your medicine." And I said, "How about not? How about not? Let's not." And maybe say we did, because I realized that doctors aren't gods. They don't know everything, obviously, or that wouldn't have happened. And at the same time, I had just taken my first massage therapy class, interestingly enough, and it was on trigger points. And so I learned about points that help and support the lungs. And so what I started to do was massage those points. And at first they were really, really sore. So I decided I was going to support my lungs naturally rather than, take that medicine that made my hands and feet numb. So at a very young age, I learned a sort of self-empowerment that a lot of people don't learn in their lifetimes. And I started doing that along with making some dietary changes, moved myself out of that school room. And even though I didn't know that it was toxic, I knew that it smelled bad. I didn't know what that meant. So there were a few things that happened at that time. I also heard a radio announcement, because radio was big in those days, 1983. And I heard this radio announcement that said, if your elderly family member seems disoriented after a shower, it's because they've breathed in too many chemicals, too much chlorine, because we eat through our skin, right? We know that now. And when we shower, whatever chemicals are there, albeit municipal chemicals from the municipal water that haven't totally been filtered out, those types of drugs are antidepressants, pain medications, as well as different hormones. And so when we shower, we imbibe through our skin 10 times more than we could ever drink in a day. So I was 13, I realized this. And I said, well, we got to do something about this. If it's affecting them, it's affecting us. So it was a big wake up call for me in that era. And I think that really set the tone for me being a healer.
That's a lot to set the tone. First of all, just thinking about being poisoned twice as a young person, and it kind of made me think about, like, was there any other kids that were getting sick, or was it just you, and did it just stand out, like bronchitis, pneumonia? That's a lot. And if they couldn't trace it back to your household, what were they doing to investigate what was causing you to be sick at school? Did anybody else at school get sick?
I don't remember, and I checked in with some of my classmates, and they didn't get sick like I did.
Gotcha. Okay. Because it took me back to a moment where I got sick, and I thought it was food poisoning when I was in middle school. I thought it was the lasagna in the country kitchen line. That's what that line was called. And I was like, what's happening? I think I got food poisoning. The next day I couldn't go to school. I was nauseous. I was throwing up, but my menstrual cycle was on. Never put the 2 and 2 together until years down the road, when I was diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis, adenomyosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and 2 small fibroids. And I started thinking about all those symptoms that people got when their cycles would be on: nausea, and just like throwing up, vomiting, painful bowel movements. And it was because my cycle was on. And the whole time I was thinking it was food. And I was like, well, why did anybody else get sick? Why was I the only one? Like, it couldn't have just been one piece of the lasagna that got me. And so it made me think about that story. Y'all put 10x in the comments if you're vibing with us on YouTube, listening to the video. 10x. That was powerful, Darci, to say 10x the amount of water we are consuming those chemicals while just showering. And I'm really glad that you broke that down to talk about how it's impacting our health, from hormones to our mental health, and just knowing that there's chemicals in our water. And I think people know there's chemicals in our water, but I do feel like they're almost at a point where they're like, but what am I going to do? I have to shower. And they don't take things to the next step. What would you say to the person who's saying, okay, you're talking about all these things that I'm exposed to in my water while I'm taking a shower, they impact my health. What are some ways that I can be mindful about that consumption or that exposure to water toxins while I'm showering or taking a bath?
And so let's circle back a little bit. The Nader report came out some years ago and said we consume 100 times, 100, not 10x, not just 10, 100 times more toxins in the showering water, because we're breathing it in, we're consuming it through our skin, than we could ever drink in a day. So what I would recommend to folks who are viewing and listening is, you want to get a good filter. You want to get a really good shower filter. here's the adage. You either be the filter or you buy a filter. So you're either going to buy a filter.
Go ahead, Darci.
So you either buy a filter or you are going to be the filter here. So we need to, and it's the same thing with our mind. We need to have that discretion and filter out things like negative self-talk. And we maybe can get to that a little bit later. But we need to filter these things out or we become the filter. So first is get a good, actually, even before that, you may want to check EWG has a good website, a good database here. And so you could just Google that and see what types of contaminants are in your water. Is it, and they won't talk about those drugs that I mentioned that are in many municipalities. They won't talk about those because they think that they filter it out. But is it chlorine? Is it, hexavalent chromium, as it was in the case of Flint River? If anybody's seen that movie, Aaron Brockovich, that went on to hurt many people fatally. So you want to get a good filter for your showering, your drinking water, especially for children, elderly, because they are more susceptible. And those are some good steps. And find out what is in your showering water. So you enter your zip code, and then you will know what is, what's in your city water. Is there fluoride? Do we know that fluoride can reduce the IQ points of up to 9 points? That's a big deal. There are other things we could do to strengthen our teeth rather than consuming fluoride, just, nilly-willy.
Yes. All right, y'all. So one, research, go to Google and EWG types of contaminants in your water so you can kind of know what's going on. 2, get the shower filter, then get the drinking water filter. If you want to truly buy the filter instead of be the filter. All right. I like to go back earlier in the point because I kind of we kind of went in a different direction there just for a moment, but I kind of want to go back to the trigger points. You said your first massage therapy class, you were able to learn different trigger points. And when you learned that those trigger points, it helped you like with your lungs and the things that you were experiencing. Can you tell us what some of those, just as a 13-year-old or 14-year-old, how old you were, what were some of those things that you actually did to address those trigger points? Because it might just be someone else who's like, I want to learn those things. I want to just be mindful of the power that I have within myself because of how I'm feeling right now. What could I do?
Yeah, so there are actually many different points. The first one that I learned was a point on the arm. If you look at your deltoid here, the insertion, when the muscle comes down, right in the center of that is a good point for the lungs. If you do a little circle on it, it feels sensitive, that means you need to work it. There are also other points. So if you look inside here, the ribs connect to the sternum in the soft places here. You can massage these points. These points can on either side of the sternum. The sternum is this, kind of flat bone here that goes down like that. And so massaging these points can actually help as well. There's also reflexology points on the hands and the feet. You could do a quick Google search and learn where the lung points are and get more specific there. But, you may know that I have 32 years of clinical experience in practicing Ayurvedic medicine, and we look at the body in a different way. We look at the body in this holistic way that we can be empowered to do things to help ourselves rather than relying and giving our power away to, big pharma, if I could say those terms here. There are so many things that we could do. Self-massage, putting our hands on our body in this way, working on these points. And there's points for the reproductive area as well. I'm not going to pull my foot up here, but there's points on the feet that you could do, Jovonnie, to support your reproductive system. There's so many things. I almost, we could talk it's so much about you. Ask me any questions. I'm happy to help.
Yes, ma'am. Y'all, this episode of the Empowered Place, Empowered Lives podcast is brought to you by Forward Vibrations. Check the show note and go support Forward Vibrations. Take the Spot Your Triggers quiz and connect with us. Let's get back into the conversation. So, Darci, the body has always been speaking. We are just not in tune with the language that it's been trying to speak through us. You shared that in your early 20s, your housemate brought home a book on Ayurvedic medicine, and you both devoured it so much that you then went to study with the author. What did that book really show up in you that really changed everything about how you saw life?
I want to answer that question. And if it's okay, I want to circle back to the first thing that you said about our body is speaking. Can I do that first?
Yes.
So when you were doing a minute ago, you were doing your break and talking about your amazing show. I closed my eyes. I'm checking in with myself. I want to ask the viewer, are you checking in with yourself just as much as you're checking in with your social media, if not more? Mic drop. Because here's the thing. Our organism is always speaking to us, and it only speaks to us in its language. What does that mean? It's like pre-verbal. So if you have children, if you have animals, they speak to you in their language. Your organism, the animal of your being, speaks to you in its way. What's its way? Through sensate experience. So I'm going to assert, my dear, that you, before you had those full-blown diagnoses, and I'm so sorry that you've been having those challenges, it seems like for a long time, yet as we know, the disease or the imbalance is not always an obstacle in our path. It is our path. Let that sink in, viewer. This is your path. If your body is speaking to you so loud that you have symptoms, your shoulder hurts or your, lungs or this or that, listen, drop in and feel the sensate experience. Is it a physical? Is it just purely physical? Did I hit my elbow and my elbow hurts? Was I exposed in the school? And then, my lungs, which was what we call in Ayurvedic medicine, kavegunya. That was my weak spot, my weak link. Maybe yours, my dear, is your reproductive area. Is that just your kavegunya, your weak link? Or is it an acute situation? Usually an acute situation is, you bumped something or you had some type of exposure and it expresses. Not all exposures, I'm a cleansing specialist. I help people learn about the toxins they've been exposed to cleanse them, prevent them from getting in our body in the first place, and track our progress. But not every exposure is immediate and acute, like an instant, just like when we stub our toe or get exposed to something. Sometimes it's silent and cumulative. Oftentimes it's silent and cumulative. But I encourage everybody to listen to our organism. Is there something in your environment that's affecting you? And then you have to roll your sleeves up or get a body, whisperer like myself, to help, be the detective there. And so that's my first point, is really listen to what your body is saying. Spend more time listening in than you do checking in on social media, period. New topic. That book. I wonder if I have it here. So that book, it was the quintessential book on Ayurveda, and that was published, I think, in the early 90s. In the early 80s by my teacher, Dr. Vasant Lad. And it was all about Ayurveda. And it's a small book. It's a really good primer. You should get that book. It's on Ayurvedic medicine, and it goes through the different body types. It lays out the foundation of Ayurvedic medicine as a tool for self-healing, because healing, if we've learned anything from this, dear viewer, healing should not be assigned to an authority outside of us. Our healing is our journey. It's our privilege.
I always say it's my healing is my journey. And so your healing, your journey is going to be what it looks like for you. So I'm really glad that you talked about it. I'm going to ask you a follow-up question though. What does Ayurveda, is it Ayurveda?
Ayurveda.
Ayurveda understand about healing that our modern lifestyle pretty much misses?
Do we have a year?
No, just like for the normal person, because we have Ayurveda, we have Chinese medicine, we have like there's so many different practices, but people choose what really resonate and aligns with them. And so I really want to be able for them to understand what this practice, what this journey could look like, that's different from the other ways that people may embrace to heal.
So traditional Chinese medicine is very similar to Ayurvedic medicine. In fact, there's some school of thought that say that they are, since they're so close geographically, that they're the same, but they branched out. They're kind of next door to each other, way over there in the Far East. And so I think the first fundamental tenet is that we are responsible for our health and well-being. And in these ancient traditions, we are proactive about our health and well-being rather than assigning our health and well-being to an external authority. So let me go deeper. We have daily practices. In yoga, it's in Ayurveda from India, it's Hatha Yoga and Dinacharya, or daily routine. In traditional Chinese medicine, they do Qigong and Tai Chi. They have daily and seasonal practices with foods that they take or foods that they avoid in certain weather. It's been raining a lot here, so one of the things what do we avoid in the summer, or, in the summer, according to Ayurvedic medicine, I'll just stick with that. In the summer, according to Ayurvedic medicine, we have more cooling foods. It's the time to have ice cream, especially midday. Whereas in the winter, when it's cold out, when we have ice cream, it accumulates extra cold and damp, according to those two traditions, traditional Chinese medicine as well as Ayurveda. So the notion that we are the author of our wellness journey is very similar in these indigenous healing practices. It's only the West that wants us to assign our happiness, our health, etc., to the Western medical model, or to big pharma or medicine. So that's a very big part of Ayurvedic. When people learn about Ayurveda, they become more empowered to nourish themselves. And that brings me to the topic of nourishing ourselves. I may be getting ahead of us, but I think this is a fundamental tenet as well, is the question of what is deeply nourishing to me now. And so that's different from the Western, excuse me, I hope this doesn't offend anybody, but that's different than the Western thought of what's going to give me pleasure now. What I want us to think about is think about your future self. Does your future self want you to have addictions or things that don't serve you? And people who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s tend to think about this more than people in, their teens, 20s, and 30s. What is going to nourish me rather than, what simple pleasures do I want? That, with great respect, that comes from a need to be comfortable, a need for quick appeasement, or, something, quick satiety. But what is really going to have somebody's body feel good? It might be skipping a meal, but we're taught, and I'm not telling people to fast, at large, although I fast once a week. I think there's a time to eat and a time to not eat. I think that's really important. And then the quality of the food, the quality of everything that we're consuming, right? What are the qualities? Fast food isn't not deeply nourishing. Just so you know, I'm getting a little bit of feedback on the line here.
Yes, ma'am. I heard it. I heard it too, but it would bring you right back in. So I'm okay with it. So I just kind of want to break that down for y'all. Number one, we are responsible for our health and well-being. She really broke down the difference of what it looks like for modern medicine versus the out east ways of approaching health and well-being. Important. The reason why I love Darci, and I'm glad that you brought it up, sense in the way is because I believe, and you mentioned them, think doctors are as gods, but they really healthcare professionals to truly carry so much more weight in what it is that they're saying or they believe about the state that your body is currently in. Empire Plate has as get through some professional really that best align, and I important. Something else to me was number two. You talked about proactive and that there is that are happening. That's important because in your daily habits, your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, when it comes to your mindset, your daily choices, the things that you engage in and you don't, the way you move, the way you nourish your body, the way you just see life and how much you're actually living versus just surviving plays a huge part in your health and your well-being. And I don't think people realize that. Three, you talked about foods to avoid and consume depending on the seasons, depending on the times of day. To that, an intelligent space for that within those systems. And then four, you talked about what is actually nourishing to me now, thinking about those nourishing behaviors. What does that look like for my future self? Versus there's a need for comfort, there's a need to overindulge, there's a need to get quick gratifying results or feelings from what it is that we're choosing to eat. And I think those four things are very important just to see how people embrace healing within a practice. And I'm really glad that you had the moment to break that down for us. And I want to go back to a word that you said earlier. Y'all, want y'all to comment this. The word is path. Put path in the comments. It is all about your own personal path, but being intentional with it. And if you don't know, you should be subscribed to the Wellness with Jovonnie YouTube channel. You would have got all the visuals of Darci showing you those trigger points and everything else. So if you listen on your favorite podcast distribution platform, make sure you give the show a follow and a rating, and then check out the YouTube version so you can get the visual benefits of what is being shown through this conversation. And so, Darci, a lot of women are listening right now and they're saying, I eat better than I used to. I'm trying to exercise. I'm doing the things, but they still feel exhausted, inflamed, overwhelmed, or disconnected from their body. When you look at someone's overall toxic burden, what are the hidden things they may not realize their body has been carrying?
Okay, well, that is another big topic. So when we talk about our hidden toxic burden, there are 7 categories. Internet connection.
So I think, we're connecting now. We're connecting now. So Darci, those toxins, what are those common toxins that you typically see when women come in to get some help?
Well, that's a good question. I have codified 7 different categories of toxins, and I'll give you a little headline of each. So the first one is food toxins. These are toxins that we create ourselves, such as improper food combinations, eating before our previous meal has digested, and that's evidenced by a coat on our tongue. So this is the first category. It's the easiest to detect and create and cleanse. The second category is toxins in our air, water, food, and medicine. Huge category, but I just boiled it down to, what is that, 7 words. So we talked earlier about taking a shower and being exposed to these toxins, consuming 100 times more than we can if we ever drink. So that's category number 2. Category number 3 is toxins that occur naturally in nature. So things like mycotoxins, mold, aquatic biotoxins, lectins, Lyme disease, things like that. Category number 4, right now, we are all being exposed to. This is called non-native electromagnetic fields, or EMFs. So that's on your phone device, that's on your computer, that's on your internet router. These interfere with our mitochondria, the basic power plants of our cells. So that's category number 4. Number 5 is chemical, petrochemicals, and heavy metal toxins. These are found in everyday products. Think the aluminum foil that we wrap our food in. Think deodorant with aluminum. Think the metal in perhaps your mouth even, and other chemicals and petrochemicals. Category number 6 is, I think you're going to appreciate this, mental and emotional toxins. These are things like the negative story I might tell myself if something's not working, or, negative self-talk, bullying, gaslighting. Category number 7 is bacteria, viri, yeast, candida, and parasites. So there is definitely overlap in these 7 categories of toxins, but in my programs, I teach people all about these, how to cleanse them, how to track our progress, and how to eliminate them from our lifestyle in the first place, because it's easier to just like prevent them from getting in than it actually is. Like, for instance, a heavy metal cleanse. I don't know if you've ever tested your heavy metals. I do periodically. And it's much easier to prevent these things from getting in our body. So some of the first places I have people look is, we mentioned it earlier, filter your water, filter your shower water. Take a look at your everyday products. Are there complex chemicals that you're exposing yourself to that can harm you down the road? One example is our surf legend, our Hawaiian surf legend, Rel Sun. As a child, she and her friends played in the DDT spray. It was the miracle spray that they sprayed on everything to kill mosquitoes, to eliminate malaria and other mosquito-borne diseases. But later on in her life, she battled with breast cancer, and she knew that that was the causative factor. I forbade my husband from doing a particular job at the resort where he was the maintenance manager, because I didn't want him to be exposed to those chemicals. So we have to be the guardians of our own health.
I like that. Thank you for breaking down those 7 toxins, y'all. We got food, air and water, nature, the non-nature, native nature ones, EMS, the computer, the cell phones. 5 was the heavy metals and chemicals. 6 was the mental and emotional toxins, and then 7 the bacteria, the yeast, the parasites. And I love that you say you talk to your clients and the people that you help, and y'all kind of look at some heavy metal sources, and you really try to check into the water, get that information from the water. And we talked about that at the beginning of the episode, how to really get that insight in regards to the water toxins, but then 2, doing a product audit. And I think that's really important, Darci, because as we continue to have more empowering conversations and more people talking about what's in the products that we're using every single day, more people are starting to become aware. And we're starting to see even products on the shelves start to shift to aluminum-free deodorant. And now people are trying to find the natural deodorant that, actually works with their body, that doesn't leave them, not feeling or smelling fresh anymore, because they're changing the products and their body is adjusting to it, their hormones. But just being mindful of what ingredients are in your products, the things that you're putting on your body, the things that you're putting in your mouth, not just the thoughts and the emotions that are also consuming you at certain parts of the day, if you're not going to manage and eliminate what that looks like. And we even talked about that earlier, just briefly, about the positive self-talk versus the negative self-talk. And I just want to remind everybody that your body isn't betraying you. It may be protecting you from a life it never was designed to sustain. And so it is very powerful for you to learn the information, the insights, and slowly but surely start changing and doing things that you know is going to help your future self. You said something powerful, Darci. Patterns are repeated. Why do people continue repeating habits, thoughts, or behaviors that they know are keeping them stuck?
Well, I think we repeat these patterns because we learn them from our caregivers. So for instance, we learn emotional communication and resilience and emotional habits and responses from our caregivers. And if they don't know how to respond in a more health positive way, a more emotionally intelligent way, and no fault of theirs. For instance, I have a friend, and sometimes, I'll notice they things won't go well for them, and they say nothing goes right, and then they start to snowball it, and it becomes they make a mountain out of a molehill with their own speaking.
Mm.
And then I have another friend, actually our mechanic, and one day he was wrenching on something, it didn't work, and he stopped, and he says, "Can I get a little cooperation?" And that was genius. And so I told the other friend this, and the other friend is still mulling it over, but they have this mental emotional habit of when one thing doesn't go wrong, when one thing goes wrong, they bring in everything else. They just pile on, they lob on, like, oh, nothing goes right, and they catastrophize. And so I think it's these mental habits that we fall into, and we just don't know any better. It's not, it's not our fault, and it's an accident of the intellect, as we would say in Ayurvedic medicine. And so we need to drop in those moments and see and ask the question, what really serves me? What is the most kind approach here, with self-love and self-compassion, and move from that place.
Serves me? That's a powerful question. What serves me? I really like that. Go ahead.
What's nourishing? What's a more nourishing thought? What's a more nourishing food? Also, I want to save you. How much do you spend on your deodorant?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I could save you some money right now. So what I use is a quarter teaspoon of baking soda. I put it in the palm of my hand. I add a little water and I apply it. You're welcome.
Okay.
It just saved you a lifetime of deodorant expense.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. And I like that you talked about patterns, or learned patterns from caregivers, and a lot that we're very influenced by how we were brought up, how we were raised, what those communities and environments look like. But I also like that you talked about the mental habits that we typically create as well. And I also like to think, Darci, when I think about patterns, sometimes the patterns that people have adapted to were patterns that they needed to survive at one particular point in time. And now that their life has changed, or that pattern has been adapted for so long, their body needs something else and they need to break out of that survival mode in order for it to thrive. And so a lot of times people don't even realize those blind spots of patterns and behaviors and adaptivity has created their pelvic pain, their bloating, their heavy periods, their stress, their dysregulated nervous system, their bloating, their overwhelmed, their fatigue, the list goes on, their heart disease, the C word. Like there's so many things that the body now just gets so overwhelmed from because you're unable to truly show up and break out of that survival mode. And so I always like to say, give yourself grace and compassion, because the version that you needed to be that adapted that habit, that pattern, that survival mode got you to where you are now. But now your body is asking. It might start as a whisper, it might start getting louder and talking, but then once it starts to scream, you have to get to a point to say, okay, what can I do differently? And I'm really glad that we kind of leaned into that pattern conversation to talk about it, because you cannot build a healing lifestyle while carrying beliefs that keep you trapped in survival. You practice Ayurveda, but you also love tapping, EFT, EMDR, yoga, and meditation. What do those tools teach us about the connection between the nervous system, thoughts, and the body's ability to heal, Darci?
Well, we circle back. We get to circle back to the same thread again. We are our own healers. And we have so many tools. You know, we have so many tools to heal ourselves, from the body-centered massage therapies that we talked about, to food, to other techniques like EFT, tapping, EMDR. You know, I did years ago, I learned tapping and I was so enthralled with it. And then I combined it with the eye movements of EMDR. And my body just loves stuff like that. And a lot of people don't know that we have these tools at our disposal. And so let's go back to friend one, who tends to catastrophize. So they can stop and take a moment and, you know, and do the tapping, even though I'm catastrophizing. I think that the universe has it out for me. It's everything always happens. I deeply love and accept myself, and then go through the whole tapping, aspect. And the nervous system knows. We need to retrain our nervous system because, we're in this grind culture. Fast food, fast information. Look at everything on the Instagrams. It's like 2 seconds. When I make my videos, my gurus are like, you got to do 2-second increments. I'm like, we need to slow down. We need to breathe. I think one of the main things that I tell my people to do is to harmonize with nature. And the best way to do that is observe sunrise and sunset. Observe it. Get that light in your eyes in the beginning of the day. That, when that first light, not through glasses, not through the screen, not through the car window, not with contacts, get that light in our eyes. And that goes through the optic chiasm, through the SCN. It goes through all these mechanisms, and it turns off melatonin, and it turns on the good cortisol, so we can then go like hunt and fight, feast, for our food. And I think that's really important. And then this opposite is true at night when we get the sunset colors. Even if you can't see the exact sun going down, be outside. Those healing rays, those healing wavelengths of the sun at that level goes in through this whole mechanism. There's a whole bunch of science to it. I'm not going to bore you, but get that sunset light in your eyes, or when the sun's going down, that turns off the cortisol for the day, turns on melatonin, and avoid those bright LED lights at night. Our skin and our hair have light sensors in them. So if you just wear an eye mask, That's great, but you want to make sure there's no outside light coming in to your room, because our hair and our skin have light sensors. And in this way, we can also harmonize ourselves, which means harmonizing the glands of the body to these the circadian rhythm. And that can help so much. People, I see people with all kinds of hormonal and nervous system dysregulation that sorry, my
And I
computer
think
just
that's really good, because I like that you said the nervous system knows, and then how to slow down. But most importantly, that we are our own healers, and to go in nature in your own way. And I think that's really important. I tell women that your body follows the environment that you created, and that environment, it's your stress, it's your boundaries, it's your relationships. First step to creating an internal environment where healing feels possible, Darci.
well, you are nature. I am part of nature. And I think we forget this. And it's another mistake of the intellect. We forget that I I am a drop in the ocean, means I am part of the ocean. I am humanity. We we're mistaken because we think we're separate, and we're not. And once we harmonize our and stay in tune like a musical instrument with nature, what starts to happen is our glands start to come online. Our endocrine glands start to come online more. We start to become more in tune with our own selves, and by tuning into nature. Even if somebody's in a city, I say tend to plants, look at plants, sunrise, sunset, and be with plants, be with animals, sink down into your own breath. There are all these ways that we can really connect in, instead of being externally referenced, in my humble opinion
Okay.
and in my clinical
So when
experience.
you think about the first step to creating an internal environment where healing feels possible, is to really just sink into your own breath and just get more in tune with yourself, because you are nature. Got it right?
You got it, girlfriend.
Yes, ma'am. All right. So your daily habits are conversations you are having with your body. Many women wake up every day fighting their body, fighting the scale, fighting the cravings, fighting the fatigue, fighting symptoms. How does a woman move from fighting her body to partnering with it?
You know, when you paint that picture, hun, I there's a part of me that starts suffering when I hear
Mm.
you say that, and I feel sad, like tears well up in me, because I've been there too. It's a paradigm shift. It's dropping in and being in tune. It's coming from that place. It's tuning into what's going to nourish me. And my idea of what that scale is gonna should look like, and what it looks like, and when I'm truly nourished, that's a whole different thing. Now we look at, where does that come from? That idea, because I'm a woman, I have a body, I'm in this day and age too. And where does that notion come from that I should be 36, 24, 36? That
You better
doesn't
know those. Go ahead, Darci.
that doesn't come from me living as prakriti, living as my original constitution. That doesn't come from there. That comes from somebody who wants to sell me something. That comes from somebody who wants, or an establishment. That comes from this conditioning that we have in our culture. And we have to step outside of that, because if you put 100 women in a room, our sisters, our beloved sisters. Maybe one will have those dimensions at a certain age, but it's not natural. It's not natural. It's a crime against our organism to try to squeeze myself into that picture. So I say, take that template off, tear it up. How do you really feel when you're deeply nourished? You know what foods are good for you. You know what foods make your mouth feel good for a second, but make the rest of your organism feel crappy the next day. You know that,
Doesn't
beautiful.
even have to be the next day. It could be in the next couple of hours or even minutes. So that was very important. And you can get that analogy and that visual. Y'all drop the word culture in the comments, because that's what we're really needing to cancel when we're thinking about this scale, and we're thinking about all of what society has created in regards to our own definition of health, healing, well-being, and remembering that it's all about you, your healing, your journey, and what's in most alignment with you and how you're navigating this thing called life. Especially as women, we're navigating through different phases of womanhood when it comes to women's health, women's well-being. And so it's going to take a different you to navigate through those types of phases. Healing begins the moment your body starts being the enemy and becomes your partner. So remember, you're not against your body. You're one with your body, and your body has been with you all along. So the heartbeat of this podcast is small, intentional choices made consistently over time can create profound change. After 32 years of practice, what are the smallest choices you've seen create the biggest transformations, Darci?
Jovonnie, what you just said, instead of fighting ourselves, loving ourselves. Every morning, I put my hands on my body when I wake up, and I've never talked about this. And I say, I love you. I love you. I love you. And so having that connection with that innermost part of my being, having that, cultivating that profound sense of love and devotion in here first, I think is the most important thing. Starting every day with, I love you. I love you. And not just, it's not an external, oh, I like the way I look with some makeup on. It's my deep innermost being, loving that part of me and moving as that part, that center, moving from that center, reaching for my food, my supplements, the people who are on my team, on my health and well-being team, because make no mistake, I have a health and well-being team too. I run that team. I do. But they are my team, and they, work for me. And I think that is really important, coming from that place of deep, deep love. What's going to nourish me? What's going to take me to the next level of loving myself and serving myself and working with my organism as my ally, viewers, listeners, if you have a disease, a disorder, or an imbalance, remember, it's the path. It's not your obstacle. And the more you lean into, okay, thyroid, okay, heart, okay, visceral fat, whatever it is, what are you telling me? What do I need to learn from this? Maybe it's, I need to quit my job. Now, I'm not telling anyone to quit, but maybe it's, I need to focus on what really nourishes. Or or maybe I need to train my environment. Maybe there's someone in my environment who's been gaslighting me, who doesn't see my opinion as equally valid or doesn't validate my opinion.
And every space matters, and every space plays a part, even if you don't want to give it that credit and that acknowledgement. Something that I love that you talked about the I love you in the morning, and placing your hand on your heart and really making that connection. For me, and I've shared this before on the podcast, it's taking a mindful bath. And before I get out of the bathtub, I kiss one shoulder and I say, I love you. You are enough. And I said, go be love and light. And when you said that that's your center that starts everything in the morning, it's like I might need to start that as soon as I open my eyes prior to just waiting until I get out of the bathtub or I'm about to get out of the bathtub. And I think that's powerful.
Thank
Something
you.
else that really stood out, Darci, is you talking about it's not your obstacle. So my endometriosis conquerors, my adenomyosis thrivers, my polycystic ovary syndrome posse, and my fibroid fighters, you are not having a major obstacle. You are navigating a path to get back in alignment with your body and figure out what does your body need to be able to break out of survivalhood and move into thriving within your own power. And so I like that because, Darci, before I was diagnosed, I never knew what those conditions even meant. I've heard of fibroids, but all the other ones were foreign to me. And when I got that those diagnoses all at one time, it was overwhelming because I thought I was healthy. I thought I lived in a healthy space and state. But what this taught me was how to get back to a space to really truly love and care for myself. It wasn't just a healing journey, it was a journey of self-love, of self-care, because
Mhm.
now I'm more mindful of the relationships that I keep. Now I'm mindful of making sure that I have boundaries, healthy
Mhm.
boundaries. Now I'm mindful of not being a people pleaser. I'm mindful of showing up for myself before I show up for other people. I'm
Mhm.
mindful of the fact that I need to be in connected with self, not disconnected from self. I'm
Mhm.
learning how to not abandon me when it needs most and how to advocate for me. And I can't love me or love others more than I love myself. And I have to show that every single day. And
Right.
so when people think about, oh, these chronic conditions and the toll it plays on our life, yes, that is real. Yes, it is major. But again, there's a path. And that path first starts with you giving yourself that permission to go heal, love, and care for you in a totally different way that you have never done because your body is asking for a change, it's asking for an interruption. And I think that's what's really important. And so go love yourself and find ways to serve yourself, but make sure that you're your first ally and you find other ways and other people and other health tools that align for who it is that you're becoming and that you need. Your future health is built in the small choices that nobody sees. One thing I love about the practice, that book you read and you went all in on it, is that it
Good.
looks at the individual. Why is it dangerous when women believe one diet, one cleanse, or one wellness trend should work for everyone?
It's dangerous because it just doesn't. One thing just doesn't work for everybody. According to Ayurvedic medicine, we're a combination and permutation of the 5 elements: space, air, fire, water, and earth, right? Now, you, my dear, are a different recipe and combination of and permutation of these elements than I am. And so, if we both do the same diet or the same whatever, it might not serve us because we're different. We're different.
I think in addition to that, Darci, sometimes the things that work for you now and in this stage of life doesn't continue to work later down the road. And I think sometimes women are in a space where it's like, oh, this is working for me now. This exercise, this food regimen, these nourishing foods, this juice, this, like, whatever the state may be, this job, this relationship, it might be working for them in a particular season or time frame, but then over time they're seeing their body not respond the way it used to the same things that they're doing, and then they're getting frustrated and they start losing that trust within themselves of being able to navigate the journey of figuring out what your body needs or how to interpretate that communication. And I'm really glad that you told us it's those 5 things are going to look different and we're made up different. The body is complex, but you still have what you need to go and figure out how to get back in alignment with yourself. And it's just time, but you're worth that time that you take. And so I'm glad that you said it because the body's complex, but even the things that we do right now that has been working for us may not work for us in the next, let's say, 10 years. And you might have to shift it up because your body needs something different because you've
Mm.
addressed those needs. And so
Yeah.
I'm glad that you said that. How can women become curious about their body instead of constantly judging it?
Well, I think you are so wise. You really are. You really are. And you're right. Our program, our food regime, our exercise needs to evolve and needs to shift and need to change. And The answer to your question is, how can we be curious? The answer is right there in your question. Becoming curious rather than condemning. We talked about the number on the scale or the diagnosis. If we have a big diagnosis, that can take a lot of time to change. But we just have to talk to ourselves. Self-talk, it's so important. I'm making this change right now, and I'm moving towards where I want to be. Sometimes in the morning when I take supplements, I have a big stack and it evolves. And I say to myself, I'm doing this for myself. I'm like depending on the supplement, I think about the area that it's going to target. And there's a school of thought that, we don't necessarily need all the supplements. We could just focus on that area, whatever it is, and send that area love and send that area light. And I think that is often overlooked. And again, just becoming curious. How can I serve my organism today?
I like it. Y'all drop the word curious in the comments. Curious over condemning, curious. And I like that you reminded us about being curious, but most importantly, understanding the power that what you're doing, how it resonates and serves your body. That's why it got me into, nutrition. I was like, someone came on the podcast and they were talking about functional medicine. And I was like, oh, let me go take a functional nutrition class. And then I learned so many different things about how those nutrients, those foods play a part in your body. I was like, now you can eat with purpose, and you can eat food that's good for you and good to you versus saying, oh, I can't have this, I can't have that, I can't have this. And it's like, that's not even the connotation or the context that you even want to take when you're bringing in something that's nourishing to you, that you want to have a certain benefit and power within your body to help. So we're getting into the vitality round. Are you ready?
Yes, and I just have a few more minutes too.
Okay, let's get it. So, quick fire rapid responses. My body taught me.
Oh, my body taught me to listen.
Healing begins when?
I come from curiosity.
The biggest burden people carry is?
Toxic burden.
One small choice everyone should make daily is?
Self-love.
The body feels safest when?
It's in an environment of kindness and compassion.
Women need permission to stop
comparing.
Here we go. Give some advice to the girl dads, father figures, role models, male role models of women with endometriosis, adenomyosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, fibroids, heavy periods, pelvic pain, bloating. How can men be a part of this healing journey, Darci?
Men can help their women not identify with the title, with the diagnosis, and massage her feet.
All right, I like it. If you could have a meal with any historical figure, who would it be and what would you all eat?
Oh, Albert Einstein and key lime pie.
All right, let everybody know where they can find you and where they can connect with you, Darci.
Thank you. Serious Cleanse on Instagram. You can find everything you need there is my link tree. I also have a great Assess Your Toxic Burden quiz there. You should take that and find out what your toxic burden is. And Jovonnie, this has been so fun. I've enjoyed this thoroughly. You are such a joy. You're incredibly intelligent beyond your years, and you're beautiful in many senses of the word, and you're so wise. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome, Darci. Y'all, if today's conversation reminded you of anything, I hope it's this. Your body is not the problem. Your body is the messenger. Every symptom, every signal, every moment of exhaustion is an opportunity to get curious and ask, what does my body support? need from me. Healing doesn't happen because we punish ourselves into change. It happens when we listen differently, choose differently, and make small promises to ourselves every single day. Until next time, keep choosing habits that heal, foods that fuel, and a life that honors what your body has been trying to tell you all along. It's your healthy habits and lifestyle coach, Jovonnie, host of the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast. Thanks for vibing with me, y'all.